Welcome to Android Authority on Air, the original Android Hangout show on Google Plus. I'm Derek Ross.
And I'm Dan Charlton.
And I'm Jonathan Franklin.
Welcome to our IO 2013 recap of at least the last 2 days. We have a whole bunch of information to go over, all sorts of awesome, cool stuff we found out, such as some cool ecosystem numbers, 900 million activations, some things for developers, because this year's I.O. was all about Google services and their API and things they can do without upgrading Android. We found out some things about maps and game services and play music and search and Hangouts, not this kind of Hangout that we're doing, and all sorts of Google Plus, Google TV, all sorts of goodies. So we'll get to that information here as we go throughout the show. As we're talking about all the goodies of I.O., let us know in the comments if I.O. met your expectations, what you thought of it. If it was, thumbs up, thumbs down, something you were hoping to see, maybe a device, and you didn't see it. So let us know in the comments, and we'll check them out from time to time throughout the show and try to do our best to answer them. So Dan, do you want to give us some ecosystem numbers? What's this 900 million that I mentioned?
Yeah, so 900 million Android devices have been activated to date. That is up from 400 million last year. So in the last year, there's been 500 million Android devices activated, whereas in the previous, 4 years, there was just under 500 million. So it's definitely still accelerating at a very impressive pace. In addition to that, Google also announced that they had 48 billion app downloads via Google Play Store, or formerly Android Market. To put that in perspective, that's versus 50 billion from iOS's App Store. So while iOS has been around longer, Android has gotten just 2 billion less downloads via Google Play. Those numbers do not include downloads via Amazon's App Store or any number of other third-party app stores. So, put that in perspective, there's definitely been a lot more Android apps downloaded than there have been iOS apps downloaded. So that's definitely good news for Android and for Android developers looking to put out apps for Android. They definitely started things off gearing it all towards developers and bolstering the ecosystems throughout Google, making things better for developers in terms of interacting with their APIs, a lot of new developer tools that we're going to talk a little bit more about later. And then after the conference, Google stated that Android was intentionally absent because they wanted to show specifically how much they could improve the platform just through Google Play services. So really, they're trying to push Android, make Android better, without even having to upgrade the operating system. And I definitely think that's the right strategy for them to take, especially given all of the fragmentation problems and different OEMs with their overlays and everything else. This is a way for them to offer a consistent level of Google services regardless of Android. So John, tell us more about the stuff that they've been putting out for developers.
Yeah, that's really what they really kicked the keynote off, talking about everything they've done, and everything that I'm about to mention was distributed via Google Play services, so that's definitely worth mentioning because it doesn't require a new Android version to be able to get it out to users. You're not going to wait for any software updates. The other thing is that it does give an advantage to devices that have Google's suite of services installed. So if you fork Android like Amazon or what they've been rumoring with, say, Samsung, then it's bad news for you. So one of the first things that they mentioned was 3 new location APIs, and it's a fused location provider, and geofencing, and then activity recognition. And pretty much every one of them is really aimed at cutting how much power usage that it requires to get a location lock, and then you get faster locks and more accuracy. And the activity recognition allows them to differentiate between whether somebody's walking or biking or driving. So it should definitely have a lot of benefits, especially for apps like Fitbit or something like a fitness tracker. They expanded on Google Plus sign-in a little bit, and the other big one that they announced was Google Cloud messaging improvements, like a persistent connection, upstream messaging, which that's kind of aimed at cutting down battery and data usage, but it also syncs notifications across devices, which should be pretty nice, overall once developers start to use it. But the really big thing that they put out for developers is a completely new integrated development environment called Android Studio. And they pretty much had a complete nerdgasm as soon as Hugo said it, but it's based on IntelliJ from JetBeans instead of being Eclipse. And a lot of developers had already kind of gone to IntelliJ. The only real drawback was that they had to pay for it versus Eclipse being free. And Eclipse has kind of had a lot of the plugins. So it's a huge, really the first IDE that Android's seen aside from Eclipse, and then it brings a really rich set of tools. Developers can very easily see what strings and their design layouts across multiple device types really make what those changes. They can really very quickly see on 10-inch tablets, 7-inch tablets, 3.7-inch phones. The typical, exactly what their text sizes and everything is changing. So what does it really mean for users? I mean, it doesn't sound exciting, but developers are going to be able to make their applications faster. They'll be able to do a much better job at optimizing, particularly for multiple screen sizes, which has been a big complaint for developers versus, say, Windows Phone or iOS. I mean, in the end, you're just going to get better apps in the end. So a better app ecosystem really is the goal of this, and especially in terms of design, you should start to see developers really get some applications that are a lot more compelling than what you have now.
Yeah.
And it should grow, especially saying it's geared to Android, and once the plugins and extensions really build on top of this environment, it should kind of get rid of a lot of the complaints that people have had, especially for Java and Dalvik.
Yeah. This also really shows the maturity of the Android platform, and where you don't just put out your own IDE for a hobbyist platform. You put it out for a serious operating system, and that's what Google's doing here. So it's definitely refreshing as a developer to see them doing that.
Very, very much. And Eclipse, one of the biggest selling points of Eclipse was just the fact that it was free. It was not that it was the best, it was just free. So it's nice to see a really compelling option for developers to be able to make something that's really nice. Developer Console got a lot of improvements. And this is also one of those things that users might not get excited about, but it's ultimately going to make better apps. They have a lot of optimization tips and better analytics for developers. So if you have to optimize for tablets, if you haven't uploaded, say, tablet screenshots, or if you have a lot of users from, say, Russia or wherever else they're using their app, but they don't actually have a translation that's geared to that country, it'll let them know to try to help them ultimately get more installs and get more sales and pull in more revenue. Then you'll get better metrics, better revenue tracking, and just a really clear picture of how your app is doing. And the biggest one, one of the biggest ones was they can actually do beta testing now, and they can do a staged rollout. So when you get your app, you can go ahead and upload it and get and this kind of goes off of Google Plus too. You can share it to, say, your circles, and you can get alpha beta testers to get your app ready, and it won't negatively affect your reviews on the Play Store. And developers can also roll out to just a small percentage of their user base. That way the feedback they get can really let them know, make sure there aren't any kinks in the app, and just get flooded with a bunch of negative reviews or anything that's gone.
And you know what, John, that's actually very nice, because how many of us have gone and tried the beta version of a new app and had to go to a third-party place, maybe the developer's website, or you're downloading a new app, from the Play Store. You have the standard version that you're running, and then you have the new, version 3.0 beta. It's a completely different app. So it's kind of confusing for
around, and Reddit and places like that, where they'll sit there and post out to social trying to find people to test for them, and
it's difficult getting beta testers as a developer sometimes.
So you're going to be able to get easy beta testers, and more importantly, you're going to be able to ensure that you're getting apps from a trusted source, because Google Play is a trusted source, and some guy posting a Dropbox link, not to say he's not trustworthy, but bad things can always happen,
Yeah.
Very much so. And not long after they announced all the developer stuff, Hugo Barr walked out and pulled out his Galaxy S4 and demonstrated his home screen and showed off, and people were kind of looking at it because it was bone stock Android, and that's what you're going to get. It's a Galaxy S4 Google Edition. It is, straight up Galaxy S4, complete with hardware buttons, menu button, back button, but it runs bone stock Android. They didn't call it a Nexus, but they did say it would get prompt software updates. And if you're interested in it, it will be available in June for $649 from Google Play. And it will work on both T-Mobile and AT&T, including their LTE network. So it's not going to be limited to HSPA+.
So what I want to know right now is, from you guys watching or listening, is do you want the stock Android Samsung Galaxy S4? A lot of people hate on TouchWiz. We don't like TouchWiz. I'll say us in here, and probably a lot of you watching, you're big Android fans, you don't like TouchWiz. So to get the power of the Galaxy S4 on a stock ROM, where you don't have to wait a couple months for it to get completely stable on CyanogenMod. You don't have to wait for somebody to unlock the bootloader using some type of exploit. It comes unlockable. It comes stock Android. It's going to work. So let me know. Is this something you want? Is this worth $650? Now, while you're dropping your comments in, I have a thought on this. So,
Just
this
straight over.
I think now this will help get stock or get an AOSP ROM on the Samsung Galaxy S4, because they don't have to sit there and fight with Samsung to get hardware working. They don't have to sit there and try to make new binaries or compile binaries and they don't have to fight with Source. They basically just can win zip ROM it.
Yeah. That's an important question though. Are Samsung and Google going to release the source for the full build, or are they just promising prompt updates and a non-open source ROM?
That's a good question. Even if
it is open source, that's great.
Oh yeah, if it's open source, then there's absolutely nothing standing in the way of porting that.
But if it's not, if it's not, you could.
If it's not, you can still port the ROM quite easily.
You can technically just take the system dump and there you go.
Yeah. You can
throw the RILs and stuff in for the carrier you're trying to port to, and it should work straight up.
Yeah, so this will actually make for a more stable, insert AOSP ROM here in the future. It really will, because
definitely
you're going to have that working code already available.
Yeah, that said, I have to agree with one of our viewer comments here. Maybe a stock HTC One, not into plastic bones. I have to agree with that, because my problem with Samsung, well, you're right, I don't like TouchWiz. My problem isn't TouchWiz, it's I don't think they make particularly high quality devices in terms of the physical quality of the device. And on top of that, I don't like TouchWiz.
Well, yeah, if HTC would have put out a version of the one with stock, I would have
dropped my Nexus 4 today.
Yeah, I would drop it in a heartbeat, especially if they got rid of the 2-button layout with software buttons. That would be the ideal.
There was a brief rumor that was shot down by HTC execs, but that doesn't mean that. How many times have execs shot down rumors because they weren't ready to launch it? But there was a rumor today saying that hey, basically plastic sucks. Don't spend $650. We have something cool coming too. And then everybody's like, oh my God, HTC is getting a stock Android device as well. And then some HTC execs were like, no.
Didn't the executive say, no, we aren't building a Nexus device?
Yeah.
Say we aren't building a stock Android device.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said that we're not building a Nexus device. He didn't say we're not going to put out a phone that runs stock Android.
Yeah. People forget
they could do like Sony did and make an AOSP-ish ROM for the one.
Yeah, and people forget that's not uncharted territory for HTC. That is a brand new thing for Samsung to be doing. But HTC's done it before. They released phones on T-Mobile that were totally stock Android, but HTC devices. Right? The G2 was that way.
Now, what do you guys think about this? So let's say, I mean, people drop $650 in this because they really want it. Let's say, I mean, are they going to sell a whole lot? Probably not. But let's say they sell enough that, like, oh, wow, people actually want this. You know, it makes somebody say, oh, could this spin off some type of trend where other manufacturers might contact Google and say, hey, we'd like to have an alternative stock device for you to sell as well? I mean, do you
I don't
think
think they need to contact Google? They can just do it. It's not like they have to pay for the
you're
source
right?
code.
Yeah, very true. Very true. They don't have to. They don't have to.
Right, like, they don't need to license it. It's free and open source. Anybody can get it.
My only concern is that Americans especially are so addicted to the subsidized model. I don't think it has a chance. And the problem with that is almost the reverse of what you said, is what happens if it doesn't do well, which is probably not going to sell a lot of devices except to maybe developers or somebody that's grandfathered into an unlimited plan and was going to buy retail anyway.
There's nothing stopping AT&T from subsidizing this. And I don't know, but I imagine T-Mobile will finance it just like they do every other device.
T-Mobile probably will, but yeah, that's a good point.
All right, so as we said earlier, let me know if you're interested in this, and we'll add it to the list of, wow, someone would pay all this money for it. Because you know what? I frankly think it's awesome, but I don't like hardware keys. You know, and
Yeah.
I don't like a hardware menu button. More than a hardware back button.
Or that ugly home button in the center.
Or that ugly home button. But you know what? Some people do. So
People do,
awesome.
yeah. They sell a crap load of devices, so apparently lots of people do.
Yeah. Apparently, it's the #1 selling Android phone for 2 years in a row. So chances are the S4 will be again. So apparently people like it. But anyways, all right. So let's talk about. So John and talked about the development part of I/O, because it's a developer conference, and it's not about going there to get free tech gadgets and goodies. Some people do. But so Google this year wanted to let everybody know that look at all of these enhancements to Android we can do with Google Play services, with APIs, with development tools. Look at all this awesomeness we can bring to the platform without actually pushing out a new version of Android. So it's a developer conference, and they're heavily pushing that. But to make the non-developers happy, they had some awesome announcements, and I'm going to go over some of them here. So there's a new Google Maps out there, which, long story short, it's completely redesigned from the ground up. And it has Google Earth built into it. It's
Finally.
awesome. I mean, so if you haven't signed up for the preview yet, say it's just the preview. It's not, they're still adding things to it. It's still not done yet. I think it was like a beta, public beta. You can sign up for the preview, and I got access to it this morning, so I signed up yesterday. So it took a day.
Wait. Google's doing a public beta rather than just releasing a product and calling it a beta for like 6 years?
No, they don't do
What a
that.
shocking new trend.
All right, so directions are completely redone and enhanced. There's edge-to-edge content. The whole entire thing is a map. You don't have a bar up top or a bar on the side. Everything's an overlay. So it's content everywhere. There's pictures of the location down below that you're viewing. There's live traffic alerts, and if you zoom out the whole entire way, it's live as can be, live clouds. I mean, obviously, there's
Not live.
It's
totally made up cloud cover.
it's
Probably pulled from weather services, so it might be synthetically real, but it's not actually satellite pictures.
Well, yeah, it's not actually satellite pictures of cloud. I didn't mean that. I meant live coverage of clouds. Yeah, obviously, there's not some moon base, where Google's sitting there taking, satellite imagery of the Earth, and
they do have a lot of satellites. That's how they get all their images for Google Earth, but they don't have that many satellites, and they're that far out.
Yeah. So anyway, you gotta check it out. It's really cool. So you can put in your location. Let's say you're looking for a local restaurant. Maybe you want to get some wings or something, and boom, I mean, the data is just right there with local reviews, with information, with walking directions on how to get there, driving directions, the time from where you're at. I mean, it's amazing. It's a very, very well done app. I'm impressed with it. I can't wait to see something like this come to mobile. I mean,
Yeah.
it,
It's worth mentioning they said the
Google Maps.
mobile would get these updates sometime this summer. So
Yeah, so you got to check it out, and you can put in your like Google already knows if you're an avid user of Google Now, then Google has your home address and your work address. So if you're sitting there at your house, you just type in home and it knows your home address, or how do I get here from work, and it knows your address. You don't have to type in 1234 Fake Street. You don't have to type that all out. So we were talking about Google services, how they're able to do things with API. Well, one of the things that they're able to do now is Google Play game services, which is part of the Google services, the green gear icon that you have. So what do Google Play game services do? Well, they allow you to sync games across devices. You can once games support this, you can do multiplayer games, and you can invite somebody to a game. You can send somebody a message saying, "Hey, I want to play this game." You can go and do like a game room lobby, or you can have it randomly find another Google Play user to play with. There's cloud save, so your game data is saved out to the cloud. Leaderboards, if you're not at IO right now, but you want to be at IO, like our friend Russell Hawley did. He played a game, scored really high, and then his picture showed up on the scoreboard at IO, so he was there indirectly. Pretty cool. And the games this allows for the ability of games to be cross-platform, so games can be played on Chrome, iOS, as well as Android, obviously. I tested this out yesterday with one of my buddies. I tested out Osmosis HD because that game was updated and supported it, and we just happened to both have it installed. And it was neat. It had a little multiplayer function where we went in there and we could eat each other and absorb each other, I guess is the correct term. And you had the ability to share that with your circles if you wanted to. It was kind of cool. So let's talk about one of my most favorite pieces of software that got updated. Actually, I love them all. I can't say one is more of a favorite than the other. But Google Play Music was rumored for a long time to get a subscription service, and we finally found out what it was called. It's called All Access, which that's kind of a long name, Google Play Music All Access. But hey, whatever. It's still all part of Google Play Music.
Still not as bad as the Sprint Samsung's Galaxy S3 Epic Touch 4G LTE.
Yeah.
I think that one gets
device names.
Ever. I don't see that ever being.
So, right now you can sign up for a music subscription. You get a 30-day free trial, and if you decide to buy it by June 30th, you get a discount. The pricing is $7.99 per month if you sign up by June 30th, and after June 30th, it is $9.99 per month. So it's kind of cool. It allows you to make radio stations based on a song, based on a genre, and it has recommendations. And the best thing is once you use the more you use the Listen Now service, the better it becomes. The more it's Google, right? It learns. It learns about your listening habits and the songs you like and everything. So it gets better the more you use it, and you'll get better recommendations to explore a certain artist or a certain genre, or and then you can create radio stations, or you can just go down to your recommended stuff and pick an artist or pick a song and start playing it. You don't have to make a radio. So it has two of those features built in. You can pick a song, or you can have it do a radio. So it's kind of like Pandora, kind of like Spotify, like in one really. I like it. I've been using the hell out of it the past day and a half. How about you guys? Have you tried it out yet?
I have not tried it out yet, although I am very, very impressed with the new Google Music app in general.
The UI, yeah. So
Yeah.
John, it is not Tron anymore, buddy. Remember we talked about that last week?
It's definitely not Tron. It's definitely very much in line with what they did with the new Play Store. I've been one that has used Spotify for a while. Spotify is really just now getting a web app. So if you're on like Chrome or Chrome OS, like the Linux client for Spotify kind of sucks. But audio does kind of like Google has been doing. If you're using audio, you know what I'm talking about. It has the library approach, where Spotify's organization to playlist is just playlists. Like you have to make playlists for every single thing that you add. So the organization is just crap. So I feel like this is a really good compromise of the two, so long as they stay on top of the streaming. Because audio's biggest problem was that the mobile apps just aren't that good. So as long as Google delivers on both the web and mobile, I think they'll see a lot of people cross over to it, because there's glaring faults in audio and Spotify and Pandora, really. So,
all right, so let's answer a couple questions here. We have a few getting backed up here. Relevant to games, Damon Hart asked a little bit ago, do we think Ingress data had anything to do with any of the stuff that came out at Google I/O? Well, you know what? Ingress is definitely data mining stuff. I mean, it's fun to play, but it's definitely data mining. I mean, that's what Google does. I would say it's only been doing it for 6 months. They might not have had the chance to release a whole product or improve a product upon that data. I mean, maybe next year is my guess. What do you guys think? I mean, it's a tough speculation,
Yeah, I think Ingress is one of those things where they're gathering data, and eventually it's going to become obvious what for, and we'll all be shocked and impressed, but I don't think we've seen it yet.
And so you guys remember, speaking of music, remember Sebastian from, wow, I'm drawing a blank here. Where did, he's a previous show guest, and I'm drawing a blank here. What company he represented? Double Twist. Wow. Double Twist. Yeah, they're talking about their music streaming service. We had him on here a month or so ago. And 486 Coolio wanted to know where his beautiful golden locks of hair were. Well, I'm sure they're on his head, since he's not here right now, unless he shaved it. And Michael wanted to know how many games support the new Google Play game services. And that's actually a very good question. And I think that sounds like a task for the Android Authority app guy, Joe Hindy, who actually is probably watching this right now. So I think that would be a nice feature to review games that support the new Play services. I've seen a list of maybe like 20 games or so. Maybe not review all of them, but the top games, and then do some honorable mentions. I think that might be beneficial. So I'll twist his arm and see if he can get that for you, Michael. Besides throwing Joe under the bus here at the last second, so let's talk about some more app updates and new services that launched at I/O. So, who doesn't love Google Search? I mean, that's the heart of Google. They're a search company that provides tons of data.
Google does search.
What?
Google does search, really?
Well, I mean, they
every now and then, I guess, occasionally.
I mean, they might, be working on a car that drives itself, but from time to time they do search. And Microsoft has this thing called Bing, apparently, that
Bing it on competition right across the street from I/O.
Yeah. So anyway, so Google Search got updated, the Android app, to display new cards, and soon coming to Chrome. Which I believe if you're on the latest, like either Canary Build or Dev Channel, you can actually test this out now. But you can do a search by saying, "Okay, Google." Hey, where did we hear that from before? Just like Glass, right? You say, "Okay, Google," and then you do your search. And its search has been updated and improved a lot. It's now they're calling it conversational search, where it can answer your question. You don't have to phrase it like a search. You can do normal language questions, and it will converse with you, and it can even anticipate your next search result, based on your history, based on you, and based on what you asked. So it's almost machine learning. It's an AI. The knowledge graph is really growing, and I can't wait to test it out. I'm not on the latest developer build of Chrome or Canary build, but I've seen some people testing it, and it looks amazing. Besides the demo we saw.
So on the phones, is it always listening? I can just pick it up and say, "Okay, Google," and it'll start searching.
No. This is just for the web for Chrome. For Chrome. Now I was mentioning new cards. Google Search got updated to include new TV episodes, new books, and new movies, and as well as new music albums that come out most likely based on things that you like. So let's say you like Daft Punk, and when their new album comes out, which should be soon, very very soon, I think it's available on iTunes right now. And the single was available on Google Play. But if you were when the album comes out, maybe you'll get a Google Now card. I haven't seen one yet that says, "Hey, your favorite band has an album out. Yay, go buy it here." Who knows? Maybe it'll have a link to the Play Store to get it. I have seen some new search cards. I had 2 search cards pop up saying, "Hey, you were recently searching for stuff about Doctor Who. Continue your search here," and it showed a bunch of preview results. And then I saw one for Android asking if I wanted to continue an Android search, and I'm curious what that's about because I don't remember actually just typing in Android. Usually it's followed by something else, but that's fine. I mean, it wanted me to search for Android, so it knows me. It knows things I like. I can't wait to try it. Like I said, on the desktop. If you're on a Canary build right now or a dev build that has this capability, which I believe one of the 2 does, let me know. Let me know how it goes. My friend Farron Lee was talking about it yesterday, and he said it was pretty awesome. Oh, okay. So let's talk about Hangouts. So a little bit of I don't know. Is a botched rollout the right wording on that, or?
I don't know that it's botched. It's just half-assed.
Well, isn't that kind of botched? All right, so a non-perfect rollout.
Yeah, I mean, I think the service that they released works well.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't encountered any real problems with it. There are some things that design choices, I guess, that I disagree with. I'd like to get more insight into more users on my list of people available. I know I can click the new Hangout button and then scroll through everybody. Well, not even everybody, just circles mostly, and a few other people. But yeah, I'd like to be able to more easily get to all of my contacts out of it. But
I like it, though.
It works. I haven't had any problems with it. But it didn't really unify anything because they didn't get rid of Messenger. They didn't get rid of Talk in Gmail. They didn't actually upgrade everybody's Talk apps on Android. I had to go to the Play Store and push it down to my phone.
Well, I don't think it's a mandatory update because some people might not want to update. So you have to specifically go and look for it.
No, I did specifically go and look for it and still was unable to install it through Google Play Store.
Yeah.
And I do know that some devices, yeah,
push it down to the phone.
Yeah, a lot of devices had issues, and they've been rolling out small updates.
I have a Nexus 4. I shouldn't be having an issue on Google's freaking device.
Well, you know what? On my wife's Galaxy Nexus, she wasn't able to install it. It said incompatible the first day. Yesterday, or this morning, it said it was compatible. And my Nexus 7, sometime in the afternoon, it became compatible. So they were rolling it out slowly. I mean, think about it. They had to have to roll this out to almost 1 billion devices. So of course it's going to take a while. Well, I think it's going to take a while, and I think that I was a little frustrated at first. I didn't have access yesterday when at work, and by the time I came home, I did.
My problem with it is not so much the way they rolled out the application to devices. That's been frustrating, but ultimately that's kind of whatever. My problem is they're pushing this, oh look, we have this new unified chat system, but they didn't bother unifying anything. It doesn't replace the old school talking.
So let's talk about unification here. So Gmail hasn't been upgraded yet. They are planning to upgrade Gmail, but one thing at a time here. So
we've been hearing about this service for like 3 years. We've been hearing about this service, and so that
is coming, Dan. Now, some people were reporting having the talk icon still there. On my Nexus Nexus 7, I had the talk icon still there, but actually if I tapped on that icon, I had a shortcut out on the home screen. I tap on the icon, it actually launched Hangouts. And most likely, if I would have rebooted the machine, it would have cleared the app cache, and boom, it would have been gone. But that was just because it was a shortcut on the desktop. Now the Messenger icon is still there. Well, that's Google Plus Messenger, and I don't remember who, but a Googler commented on that, saying that right now they're migrating over the backlog of Messenger conversations, and once all the conversations are on the back end are migrated to the new platform, then a Google Plus update will come out and Messenger will go away.
That's a laughable excuse. Absolutely laughable. Google has one of the most sophisticated networks on the planet. They are literally writing the book on how to build a large-scale network to be able to do instantaneous global data transfer. To say, oh no, I'm sorry, we can't do this because we're migrating the data. Are you kidding me? Really? All Google does is migrate data around the world all the time. They custom-built a network specifically to be able to do that with maximum efficiency. Unparalleled efficiency. And oh, sorry, we couldn't roll this out by I/O because we're still migrating the data. Apparently, we didn't think to start this a week in advance. Like, really, this is just, oh, we didn't bother to think about that because we're putting out this new unified thing. So, why would we bother thinking about the 8 different services that we're trying to unify in advance of releasing this?
The other thing they could have done is like they've done with other, like Google search will give you a prompt if there's an app update. They could have done that in Talk. They could have done that with a Google Plus update, that when you go to Messenger it says, hey, we're moving over to Hangouts, why don't you go install this?
Yeah.
Because if I think about the average user, and you have to take into account that most people just don't really install app updates. Like, I'll go on most people's phones and open up the Play Store, and there's like 23 app updates waiting on them, but they just don't bother updating their phones. So putting it inside an application is about the best way to get them to migrate. And it's probably going to take months before you actually see average users even pay enough attention to update Talk to Hangouts. So,
and as with anything, I'm sure it's going to get better over time, such as SMS support. Right now, we know if we look at the application permissions, it has permission to read your text messages, it has permission to send text messages. That feature obviously isn't available yet, but the fact that the app has permission to do that, and I won't mention her name, but a Googler that we all know and love said that SMS support is coming very soon. And then a few hours after she said that, she updated her post saying, oops, sorry, we have nothing to comment on this at this time.
But she didn't delete the original portion of that.
Yeah. We love you and we love what you do if you happen to see this. So keep up the great work, and thanks for letting us know that it isn't coming soon.
I mean, this isn't a surprise. They had kind of alluded to the fact that voice integration wasn't going to be there at release, but that it was going to be, in the pipeline. And realistically, I think another friend of mine, another developer, posted some insight on this, where he pointed out that really the point here isn't to integrate with SMS; it's to replace SMS.
Yeah.
Why are people still texting? Just send me a Hangout message.
I would say the same thing, but then I looked at an option. There's an option to have Google Hangout messages be sent to you via SMS if Hangout is idle. And I said to myself, well, why would you want this? Why do I want Hangout messages to be sent by text message to me? And then I realized, well, not everybody in the world is blessed with the same type of data that we are here in the U.S. Not everybody has the same type of coverage. And also, some places data plans are expensive, and text messages, might not be. They normally aren't. So,
where and when that's true, it's because carriers are screwing their customers.
Well, okay, but somebody down in Guam, might not have the best network,
No, and that's absolutely true. I get that, but it's not any more difficult for a carrier to move a Hangout-sized message from point A to point B that it is an SMS-sized message from point A to point B. They're just simple text. In fact, I'd be willing to bet that the Hangout-sized message is probably encoded in a way that makes it smaller than the SMS.
All right, so what about somebody that maybe has a feature phone or has a dummy phone, non-smartphone? They want to get Hangout text messages, sent to them.
The only thing
I feel bad for those people and would welcome them out of the 1990s.
Think about Google Voice, though. Google Voice, let's just be hypothetical here, could be the trump card that pretty much puts an end to every other WhatsApp, other kind of messaging service, because it would be the one application that you could still send a text to your grandma if you felt like it, and be in the same exact application, because Google Voice would allow you to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. With Google Voice, they could integrate it as a selection where you pick your contact that you want to hang out with, and then you pick which of your various contact information for them you want to contact. You want to text their cell phone number, call their work phone number, directly through a Hangout. Send them a message in Hangouts to their Gmail address or to their work email address if they have that and they're on Google Apps, right? Like to be able to pick and choose which of your various means of communicating with that person you want to do, all from one interface. I mean, with that, if Google did that, they could quite literally make phone numbers obsolete. You have my Gmail address, you can call me, you can email me, you can SMS me, you can instant message me, you can contact me in all of these different ways that I'm giving Google. I give them my phone number through voice, I give them my email address, obviously, and then they've got they've got all of this information. Why bother with a phone number?
All right, so let's talk about another product that is near and dear to all of our hearts because, well, those of you that are watching on YouTube, it might be near and dear to your heart, but those of you that are watching on Google Plus right now or listening to us later and have a Google Plus account, let's talk about the Google Plus overhaul, and 41 features Vic said were added to Google Plus. We're not going to go over all 41 because, well, frankly, we probably don't know all 41. But also for time, we don't want to have this be the Google Plus show. So for all Google Plus news, you should check out our friends at Google Plus Daily. I'm sure they know all 41 of those right there. All right, so some of the big ones.
Check your stream and find out a lot about it too.
Your stream. All right, you know what? I wasn't going to start with the stream because the stream's a hot topic and we're never going to get off the damn thing. Let's talk about that stream. All right, so man, there's two kinds of people in this world. One, they love the new stream changes, or two, oh my God, kill it with fire. I mean, there is not there's no middle ground. You either love the new changes, or you're gonna adapt to the new changes and eventually love them, or you're never gonna love them and you hate those damn things. Like there's so much rage yesterday, I'm sure still today, about oh my God, this is ridiculous. And you know what? I'm going to make two comments about it, and then you guys can go ahead and let us know what you think. And as I'm ranting and raving about this here, go ahead and let us know in the comments what you think about the new UI changes on Google+. I think it's great because it allows me to see more content. I follow a lot of people. I circle a lot of people. And a couple thousand, like 3,000 some people. So my stream is constantly, it's a stream, it's flowing, it's a moving, right? So I miss a lot of posts. I miss a lot of content. The fact that I have to go up into the corner and click refresh, while might be annoying, means I made a conscious decision that I don't want to see what's on my screen anymore. Show me something new. So that means I either looked at it all or none of it amused me, so I wanted to see something new. Whereas before, it's constantly scrolling. If I look away for a second and I look back, I might have missed it. So it allows me to see more content, and I've interacted with a lot more posts the past day than I have in a long time. So I think it's cool for engagement. I like it for engagement. Now, having scroll barception, where you have 3 scroll bars beside each other, and if you scroll down in one to where you can't scroll anymore because the other scroll bar needs to be scrolled down, and as you're scrolling that down, if you accidentally scroll down the page, you're screwed. The whole thing went away. So that needs to be scroll barception needs to be fixed. Having a scroll bar inside a scroll bar in a scroll bar sucks. But you know what? You watch where you're scrolling. You really do.
That's very true. Yes.
So, but I mean, what do you guys think about the stream? You know, am I drunk or
I'm really kind of ambivalent about the new UI, the multi-columns. I could take it or leave it. It really doesn't bother me. But I'm not like, oh yes, this is the greatest thing ever. But it's also not the end of the world. I do find having to click the new button annoying, just because my stream doesn't flow as fast as yours, and so I hate having to click it every time. Like, oh, there's been one more post. Click next. Oh, there's been one more post. Click next. Right? Like, I don't want to do that every 5 minutes. I want it to just populate, especially if I'm not, like, if that screen or that window isn't my focus. If I'm doing something in another window, I want to just see stuff populating like that. So I'd prefer that there was an option there.
So, Damon Hart, he said, I think there is too much going on in the stream, which there is. He said, I wish there was 2 columns instead of 3. Well, my friend, if you don't like 3 columns,
narrow your window.
There's a simple fix for that. All you got to do is just suck your window in, just narrow your window, and you can narrow it down to 2 columns. Right now, I actually find myself trying to figure out if I like 2 or like 3, and every once in a while I go back and forth.
You can narrow it all the way down to 1 if you want.
Yeah, you can narrow it down to 1. So yeah, just because you click the drop down more and go down to 3 columns doesn't mean 3 will actually show.
I kind of like the 3, but I have a 22-inch monitor, so I can understand why somebody on a laptop wouldn't. I just wish the timestamps, like the most recent post would be like most recent, let's say left to right.
Right. Yeah, the inconsistency there is.
The next list of cards goes navigationally back in time consistently instead of having new, slightly older, and kind of jumbling them up. If it was just a consistent timestamp and had the cards split for the content like that, I would absolutely love it. And the clicking to refresh new isn't really my thing. I kind of liked how it would auto-refresh as long as it's not sitting here kicking me up to the top. It would be nice to know what's new and just make it like a timestamp that highlights what has been done since I've been scrolled down my stream and just go to like the last point. Instead of having to refresh, it just shows me where the posts that I have missed since that point started.
You mean like the little face you get in Hangouts that show you where the other person last read?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wait, you mean using the same example in one product in another one too?
All right, so let's talk about some other Google Plus features. Let's talk about Auto Awesome and Auto Enhance. Those are just awesome names. I'm sorry. All right, so Auto Awesome can do a lot of different things for you. So let's say you take a couple of landscape photos where it's kind of like a panorama photo, but without a panorama. You're just taking a picture this way, take a picture this way, and it's not a panoramic photo, but it could have been. Well, Auto Awesome says, we're gonna make this a panoramic photo for this guy or girl, and it turns it into a panoramic photo for you. That's one feature it does. Now, have you ever taken a whole bunch of photos of somebody? You're trying to get that perfect shot, and you end up taking one where they're facing one way or they're turning one way, and then you take another one, they're turning another way. So you have a bunch of similar photos, and you look through them all, and you try to figure out which pose was the best. Which way they're facing, which pose were the best. If you have dogs, kids, cats, whatever. Well, Google Plus with Auto Awesome says, wouldn't it be awesome if they didn't have to choose which of these poses they liked? Why don't we turn that into an animated GIF? And it does. And I made one last night, and I kind of made an ass out of myself, but it was funny. I sat here and
No way, that's so unusual for you.
I was like, this way and then this way, looking down, looking up. So it's kind of like when it auto awesomed everything together. I'm like dancing and stuff. I thought it was great, and I'm gonna do it again because it's fun. I took some photos of my coworker today, just testing it out again, and it made this really awesome animated GIF of her making all sorts of faces and stuff. So it's a really cool feature. I can't wait to use it, for snapping photos of my kids and stuff. Auto enhance. Well, it auto enhances your photo. It pretty much does what it says. So what does it do? Noise reduction. So if you take a grainy photo at night, or low light, it'll help with that, with noise reduction. Skin softening. It'll do touch-ups for you. Help get rid of those blemishes. No, not really. But it does, applies a light filter automatically for you. Now, don't worry.
You can brush filter.
Yeah. Now you can turn this off, but it doesn't overwrite your original photo. It just touches it up for you. And if you want to go and look at the difference between the two, you just click on the photo up in the top left corner. You can click on the little auto enhance icon and see the original and then see the one that's enhanced and decide to keep it if you want to keep it or not. I think it's neat. So this happens, but this won't happen on your old photos. You'll have to go do that automatically. But it'll happen on anything new that is uploaded either through instant upload, which is now called auto backup, or it'll be uploaded, or you upload it yourself manually. So, and speaking of auto backup, I like the fact that they changed that, because now Dan's going to have a comment on this because Dan doesn't like dumb, but a lot of people were confused about instant upload. A lot of people thought, oh my God, my photos are getting shared to the world. No. It was just getting shared to you, and you could choose to never touch it again, or share it to yourself, or delete it, or not. It was a private photo. But a lot of people thought, oh my God, my photos are instantly uploaded and shared. So Google put a nice big yellow box there saying, no, this is a private album just for you. Well, apparently that wasn't good enough. So now it's called auto backup, because that's really what it does. It automatically backs up your photos. So now, hopefully people won't think it's automatically sharing their photos. Let's see. Another big Google Plus update. Well, photos again. We'll keep talking about photos because that's huge. 15 gigabyte of cloud storage for full-sized photos, which you can store unlimited photos at the 2048 by 2048 resolution. You now have 15 gig to store your full-size photos.
And that 15 gigs is rolled together with your what used to be 5 gigabytes of drive storage and on average about 10 gigabytes of Gmail storage. It's all now rolled into one, which is something we talked about last week. Is something that we all really wanted to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we talked about a lot of the stuff last week.
Yeah.
We should get a medal. So we did talk about some Google TV stuff last week, and we weren't 100% wrong, but we weren't 100% right either. So Google TV is basically just being called Android now, which we kind of said that. It's good. Google TV is going to be updated to the latest version of Android. But here's the neat thing: Google TV isn't dying. It's not going away. It's getting turned into a software package, an add-on. So
it's like
you
Apple
can
server now.
What's that?
It's like OS X server now.
Well, sure. I've never used OS X server because I've
no longer an independent distribution. You buy regular OS X and then you buy the server add-on from the whatever Apple or nonsense they have.
Yeah. So you have a regular Android device. I mean, I don't know if there's restrictions on what can get this add-on, so I don't know if I can put installed on my phone. But a manufacturer makes a Google TV device, puts stock Android on it, and then after they put stock Android on it, they use we'll call it a development toolkit, a software package, an add-on. I don't really know the official terminology yet, but all I know is that Google TV and Android are completely separate, and it's an add-on. So that makes
sense, though. That's a cool. Much smarter way to package it.
Yes, and so we'll see. Right now, Google TV said that current market devices will be upgraded to Jelly Bean. We're not really sure what that means. Market devices. That's
probably ones that are currently on sale.
That's a careful choice of words. I would like to assume that that's what that means, but you got to remember that all those Marvell, chips that we're running, I don't know if they can run. I mean, well, I'm not going to make a speculation, but
they can run Jelly Bean.
Yeah,
if
but
ICS, it can probably run Jelly Bean pretty.
Well, they can definitely run Jelly Bean. Definitely.
We'll see. I'm curious what happens in the near future, but we do know that that's exciting. You're going to get the latest version of Android, and it can get prompter updates because it's a separate software package. You don't have to worry about a forked version of Android being maintained.
Yeah. I mean, and not just faster updates, but updates to Android independent to updates from Google TV. Right? And as far as the future of Google TV, this means that the Google TV staff, developers, that whole team, they don't have to worry about maintaining their underlying operating system. They can just focus on the service that they're trying to build.
And Dan, any app, it's just Android. It doesn't have to be a special a special
exactly. That also
Google
means
TV
that
app.
the Google TV devices that you're buying are no longer restricted to these 12 applications. It's the full market.
Yeah, and this add-on will have specific Google TV apps you've all come to know and love, such as Primetime.
Yep.
Because that's a proprietary Google TV app. So I think that's really it for Google I/O. We had a lot of fun, a lot of geeking out, a lot of exciting stuff. But what didn't we see that we thought we were going to see? A lot of people thought we were going to see all sorts of devices. We ended up seeing a Galaxy S4, running stock Android. We didn't see a new Nexus 7. We didn't see. I'm not even going to say the other bastardizations of things that people thought we were going to see. We didn't see a new version of Android. We were fairly confident we're fairly confident that 4.3 exists, but we didn't see it. Latest rumors this evening coming out of I/O say that on June 10th, a white Nexus 4 will be unveiled, and Android 4.3 will be unveiled as well. And Google did announce at I/O that the next version of Android would support BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy, Bluetooth Smart, Smart Ready, whatever you want to call it. So they did make that announcement, so we do know it's coming, and rumor is it'll be here in a month, a little less than that.
Is it just me, or does it seem like Google shouldn't have? Right, I/O was a lot earlier this year than it was last year.
2 months, yeah.
Is it just me, or does it seem like they should have had it at the end of June like they did last year?
Historically, it was always in May. They pushed it. I don't remember why they pushed it back 2 months last year. I don't remember, but normally it was in May, but they pushed it back. So I mean,
we were hearing these rumors about a next version of Android and another device coming on the 10th of June. They've got maps going, but we aren't going to see it until later this summer.
Yeah.
They've got Hangouts mostly there, but they still haven't done all of these other pieces of the puzzle. They've got a lot of this stuff that's kind of ready, but not so much.
Well, look at it this way, Dan.
We're better off a month from now when all of this stuff was actually ready for prime time.
It's going to allow them to make another major announcement to stay in the media longer. And it's going to be after Apple's developer conference. So, actually, the June 10th date, I'm not sure when that is now. It's sometime in June.
I think Apple is actually late June this year, if I remember.
Okay, well then maybe they'll try to steal the show.
WWDC anymore.
Yeah, I mean WWDC. It's funny because I/O kind of felt like WWDC this year, and WWDC last year really was kind of developer focused. I guess Google did put more of a developer focus on I/O than WWDC did, but there weren't any huge announcements at WWDC last year, just kind of like this year product-wise, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think Google might be pushing to get the consumer devices in their own announcement closer to the holiday season to try to help sell the Nexus lineup better. Because if they can put out, say, a phone, tablet, new Chromebook at the exact same time and kind of get some industry splash at a time where people are already going to spend more money just because it's closer to the end of the year, then maybe that's the route they're trying to take with their consumer products. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely don't have a problem with them not putting out any hardware at this event.
The
hardware that was rumored, I didn't find any of it particularly appealing. Even the new Nexus 7, right? I've got a Nexus 7. I don't need to replace it yet. So I think it's smart for them to kind of unify their product launches in the November timeframe, late October, early November, when they released their phone. They released the 10-inch tablet, but then they had the Nexus 7 that was hanging off on the front end of that. I think if this year they try and unify all three at the one time, that's smart for them. But I mean, my problem with what was there wasn't so much that what we didn't see, it was what we saw was only halfway done.
All right, so one last thing about I/O in our before we close here is the closing remarks of Larry Page. He made us remember why Google's awesome. Why we love Google. If you I'm not going to try to paraphrase what he said because it was a great speech. It really was, and it made us love Google more than we already do. So go check it out. Watch his closing remarks, and remember, he basically says that Google should be trying to build awesome things that we don't even know what the hell they are. They shouldn't be worried about fighting about stupid patents and fighting about YouTube and Screw Gold and Microshafted. I mean, who the hell cares about that stuff? Focus on things that you can't even dream of. And so go watch it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and the fact that he did a question and answer session was just something that was.
Yeah. The Q&A at the end was pretty nice. Way. Definitely. All right, Dan. 30-second patent wars, real quick, because even though Larry Page says we shouldn't focus on it, we focus on it for at least a minute or two because, well, it's news.
Yeah. So there was a pretty big case called CLS Bank versus Alice Corp. So not any actors in the smartphone world, but the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals ruled on bank, and that means that's the entire panel, all of the judges on the entire Court of Appeals there. Basically ruling that the material at issue in this particular case wasn't patentable because it said blah, blah, blah on a computer. And for those who aren't familiar, a lot of people have been patenting things where it's generic and obvious things that everybody has known or been using for the last hundreds of years and tacked on a computer at the end and then said, oh, it's totally new concept and gotten patents issued. So this is the federal court striking down that concept, but only sort of. The ultimate decision was pretty convoluted. There were several different concurring opinions. It makes it pretty obvious that this needs to go to the Supreme Court, especially since now this is the Federal Court of Appeals reneging on a problem that they themselves created, because software patents weren't originally a thing until they opened the door to them in the first place. So hopefully we'll finally see some progress on this and get a real ruling from the Supreme Court on the topic. In other legal news, YouTube/Google sent a cease and desist letter to Microsoft telling them to take down their YouTube Windows Phone app, that it violates the YouTube's terms of services. So basically Google is saying, we're not developing for your unpopular and crappy platform, and no, you can't rip us off and make your own knockoff version of YouTube.
That blocks ads, strips ads, and allows you to download the video.
Yeah.
I mean, Microsoft is actively promoting piracy.
Yes. Yes, if anybody else produced this product, it would be getting DCMA'd for being a piracy magnet. But because it's Microsoft, it's not.
All right, so as usual, you can check us out on AndroidAuthority.com, YouTube/Android Authority, SoundCloud/Android Authority, on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Google+, pretty much all over the interwebs. Check us out every Thursday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time for Android Authority on air. Once again, you can click up here, down here, wherever we're at on YouTube to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right? Thanks, guys. Have a good night and a good weekend.